Hello everyone and welcome back to Unforgotten Tech. My name is Gregory Krause and today we're going to be talking about brakes. In today's video we're going to go over how to properly remove and replace the brake pads and rotors on a front disc brake system. Now before we get started with today's video, if you could take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel and make sure to hit that notification bell, as that ensures you never miss any of our content. Also, if you have any content ideas for future videos, throw a comment in the section below. Modern hydraulic disc braking systems use Pascal's law of fluid mechanics to transfer the force of the driver's foot on the brake pedal to the wheels, where a set of brake pads forcibly are pressed against the brake rotor, causing enough friction to slow and stop a vehicle. Because of this friction, the brake pads and rotors will wear and need to be serviced or replaced. Replacing the front brake pads and rotors on a vehicle can be a relatively simple task, but you will need to be prepared for the job going in. For this job, we will need a safe and secure work area, safety glasses, closed-toed shoes, and be free of any loose or hanging clothing, hair, or jewelry. For tools, we will need a breaker bar, a socket set, torque wrench, caliper piston spreader tool, pry tool, bungee cord, impact gun, flip socket, and torque stick. Parts needed for this job will be brake pads, brake rotors, brake clean, and high temperature grease. To start this job, we'll need to stage the vehicle in the bay and prepare it by lifting the hood and setting on fender covers. We will then check the brake fluid. If the brake pads are worn down, the brake fluid should be near or at the minimum mark. If the fluid is near the full mark or above the minimum mark, we may need to remove some brake fluid so that it does not overflow when the caliper pistons are being retracted. Now we can lift the vehicle to a comfortable work height and remove the front tires. From here we can now see the brake caliper and the rotor. On the brake caliper we have two bolts that fasten the caliper to the caliper mounting bracket, and two larger bolts that fasten the caliper mounting bracket to the steering knuckle. We will use a breaker bar to remove the two smaller bolts that are holding the caliper onto the caliper mounting bracket. We will remove the caliper completely, inspect it for any torn boots, damages, or leaks. Then hang it in place in a position to where the weight of this component is not pulling on the brake line, as this could cause damage. Now we will inspect the old brake pads for unusual wear. Unusual wear could indicate other concerns with the hydraulic braking system. Using a breaker bar, we will remove the caliper mounting bracket from the steering knuckle. This should make it to where we can now remove the rotor. If the rotor has nothing holding it in place and still will not budge, a hammer can be used to help loosen it if you are not going to reuse it on the vehicle. If you are going to reuse the rotor, use a special tool that threads into these holes, and this will help push the rotor off. From the factory, the brake rotors come with a factory oil within the packaging, so we'll want to get a clean rag and some brake clean and clean up the new rotors before we install them. Now we will place the new rotor on the vehicle. To steady the rotor on the vehicle, you can use one or two lug nuts, tighten them in to keep it in place while you install the caliper mounting bracket. Having the caliper mounting bracket off, we will replace the hardware and new hardware provided. We will also remove the slide pins and lubricate with a high temperature grease. We will now install the caliper mounting bracket with the 2 bolts and snug them up. After we've snugged them up, we'll want to use a torque wrench to tighten the bolts to specifications. On this Toyota, it is 79 foot-pounds. Now we will apply grease to any contact points on the back of the brake pads. This will include the hardware and caliper contact points. Make sure that no grease is applied to the pad surface or on the rotors. Now we will remove the cap to the brake fluid reservoir so that the pressure is released while pushing back the caliper piston. Note that the brake fluid is hygroscopic and will accumulate moisture out of the atmosphere, so make sure that you put the cap back on in a timely manner. Using our caliper piston spreader tool, we will push the piston back into the caliper. If you do not have one, a C-clamp can be used. We will use the old brake pad to press against and bring the piston fully retracted and flush with the caliper. While retracting the piston, we'll want to make sure that the fluid level does not overfill. Next, we will install the brake pads and reinstall the brake caliper. Make sure the brake pads and the rotors are sloping the same way and the friction material is facing the rotor. The brake pads should slide right in and become flush with the rotor. We want to make sure to torque the caliper bolts down to specifications. And now we just need to repeat the process to the other side of the vehicle. Generally, I'd recommend to do one side at a time, as this will give you the reference point if you forget how the parts and components are installed. With everything back together, we can now put the tires back on, torque them to specs, and check for the final brake fluid level. Note that the final fluid level should be on or near the max line depending on the rear brake's level of wear. We will then want to step on the brakes several times until we get resistance back in the pedal. Now let's take the car out for a test drive to break in the new pads and rotors and confirm the repair. All right, and just to recap, today we replaced the front brake pads and brake rotors on a disc brake system. Well, My name's Gregory Krause here from Unforgotten Tech, and I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. And remember, be strong, believe, be unforgotten.